Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have my Game Week 21 team selection. If you are enjoying the content here on this channel, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe. But without further ado, let's jump into today's video. So guys, we kind of briefly discussed Game Week 20 earlier on in the videos this week, so I'm not going to discuss it again, also because I had a pretty stinky week and I don't really want to think about it too much, but I am down to 3.8k now. Triple captaincy was probably a failure, so at the time of recording, the game's just finished the Man City Spurs game. Haaland looks like he's got no bonus points, so I think that's 8 points all out for him. So to get 8 points essentially from your triple captainship isn't amazing. I was aiming for kind of 15 points, but if you think you would get 15, I've kind of lost out on maybe 7 points. So it's not the end of the world, but I'm definitely not saying it's a success. If you kept your triple captainship and you didn't play it, you're probably very happy at this moment because there probably will be a better opportunity in the future where Haaland gets more points than 8 in a single game week. Looking forward to Game Week 21, I'm currently in the 3-4-3 still. I've got 0.3 million in the bank and I have one free transfer. Now, as I've discussed all throughout the week, because we will get Game Week 25 news around which teams blank and could there potentially be a double for some teams if another Brighton fixture gets rearranged. Liverpool could have a double game week in 25. So there are some opportunities. We should hopefully get all of that news before the Game Week 22 deadline. So to go into Game Week 22 with 2 free transfers could be absolutely massive. So at the moment, I would advise, if possible, to roll a free transfer. But as you'll see with my team, it's not always easy because you could have fires to put out in your team. And there are also places where you could get aggressive and just use that free transfer. And then if next week you need 2 transfers, then I guess you can just take a -4. So whilst I do think rolling a transfer is great this week if you can, I don't think you necessarily have to. So let's take a look at my team. As you can see, I've got Ederson in goal ahead of Kepa. I'm sure I'll get this decision wrong once again. In hindsight, Ederson was a pretty shocking pick. And you can say it wasn't even hindsight. Lots of people said Ederson doesn't make saves. He's not a great keeper. I expected City to keep more clean sheets. And the fact that with Kepa and Ederson, you've got 3 double game weeks in the space of kind of 4 or 5 weeks, it made sense in my eyes to go with Ederson and Kepa. And as I always say, the saving grace with going for Ederson is if I didn't go for Ederson, I would have gone for Cancelo instead of Shaw. So I wouldn't have had Luke Shaw for his 2 big scores, and I also would have had Cancelo to deal with too. So yes, Ederson wasn't great, but the alternatives weren't that fantastic either. And Wolves at home is a good fixture. So I will be playing probably Ederson ahead of Kepa. You could say that Kepa's more likely to make saves and Liverpool haven't been fantastic, so there's justification. But for me, I'll be sticking with Ederson. At some point in the future, probably after Game Week 23 or on my wild card, I will probably be looking at taking money out of that Ederson spot. The rest of the defense isn't great. We'll start with Kieran Trippier because he is fantastic, but everyone owns Kieran Trippier. And so many people also own Pope, Botman, Burn, Fabian Schär, etc. that actually you want Newcastle to concede if you only own Trippier. The defensive ownership is well above 100% at the top rank. So whilst I have Trippier, I actually want Newcastle to concede every week. So he's not really getting me many points. And even if he gets an attacking return, because everyone has Trippier, you don't get much from it. So I'm going to keep him. He's absolutely fine. I'm not going to ever bench him or sell him. But it becomes an issue now where you either need double Newcastle defence or you're just sitting there praying for one of your players to blank, which feels a bit silly, really. And then the other 2 defenders are playing against each other. So we've got Ben White and we've got Luke Shaw. Obviously, White, Man United at home. Shaw, Arsenal away. If you are only to start one of them in Game Week 21, I would definitely advise starting Ben White. There's 2 reasons, or 3 reasons for that. Ben White is playing at home. Arsenal are the better defence, and Casemiro got suspended, and now he misses the Arsenal game. And I think the only way I would have played Shaw is if Casemiro was fit, or if he wasn't suspended and he was going to play that game, because he is so critically important to the way that we defend, the way that we attack, everything, the structure of our team. I think that Arsenal will have an absolute field day against Manchester United without Casemiro, and I definitely think that a chance for a clean sheet is probably even more likely. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to be focusing on the fact that Casemiro being out is probably worse for our defence, which it probably is, like ahead of Shaw, but I also think it's better for Arsenal's defence because I think it gives Man United absolutely no control in that midfield when Casemiro is not there. So not only do I think it makes Shaw a slightly worse option, I also kind of think it inherently makes White a better option too. So if you're only to start one, I would start your Arsenal defenders ahead of the likes of Luke Shaw and other Man United defenders. On the bench, you can see I do have Castagna, and I have sort of gone back and forth between starting Castagna ahead of Shaw. The reason I haven't at the moment is Leicester are pretty shocking. Brighton have been absolutely exceptional, and people are bringing in the likes of March and Matoma. I think Brighton will score. And I can see a world where that is a 0-0 game between Arsenal and Man United. I don't think it's that likely, but do I back Leicester to keep a clean sheet against Brighton more than Man United against Arsenal? Maybe. So at some point this week, I might end up playing Castagna ahead of Shaw. But for me, White is the best of the other defenders I've got there. You can see that I do still somehow own Reece James on my bench. I haven't sold him yet because I don't like any of the other defenders. I've spoken about the ones that I really do like are the likes of Estepinian, Ben Mee, or another Newcastle defender. But the issue with those players is that they all might blank in Game Week 25, and I won't know that until after the Game Week 21 deadline. So for me, I would rather replace James before Game Week 22 than do it now and pick the wrong player. Because let's say Brighton don't blank. Let's say they either get a fixture rearranged or Newcastle don't beat Southampton in the semi-final of the EFL Cup. Then I would probably look at bringing in someone like Estepinian. Or you could, if Newcastle don't make the final, then I could bring in Botman and just double up on that Newcastle defence, as I discussed. So whilst James is an issue, and I need to replace James to get a fifth defender in my team, I don't know exactly who I want at the moment. So I'm not overly happy. Ederson doesn't make many saves. White and Shaw, I could see both teams scoring that game, and Trippier doesn't really get me much. So it's not ideal start to the team. And I'll be honest, the midfield and forwards don't look that much better at the moment. As I said, it doesn't really get that much better in the midfield, mainly because I also have Martinelli and Rashford. And when you have White, Shaw, Martinelli and Rashford, it's very unlikely that they'll all get points for you. I mean, in an ideal world, maybe White and Shaw get attacking returns and Martinelli and Rashford get hat-tricks each, but it's very unlikely that I'm going to get points from all of those players there. But realistically, I don't see a desire to sell Martinelli and Rashford at the moment. Yes, I still do believe, and I spoke about this earlier in the week, make sure to check out my 2 videos I've already released this week. I do believe Ødegaard is a better option than Martinelli. I personally don't think that Saka is a much better option. However, the recent developments have started to make me think that Martinelli to Ødegaard at some point is definitely a transfer worth making. The number one for that is, at the time of recording, it looks like Trossard is basically a done deal, and Smith Rowe is now back. Now, I said at the time in the video earlier this week that I think Martinelli is still first choice ahead of Smith Rowe, and I still strongly believe that. And I still strongly believe that Martinelli will be first choice ahead of Trossard. However, they now have 2 very, very capable left wingers, and both Smith Rowe and Trossard, whilst they can play centrally, they are both naturally left-sided players. So you've now got 3 very talented players that can all play on the left. And to be honest, yes, like I said, they can play on the right. They could replace Saka. They could play through the middle and replace Nketiah. I just think it's more likely that they'll replace Martinelli. Now, I don't think that will be from the start. I still think that Martinelli will play almost every game from the start in the Premier League. But I can start to see or imagine a world in which he gets 60 to 70-minute subs, both to rest him and to not risk him, but also just to inject some energy in that sort of final 20 minutes of the game. So I think at some point, whether that's before Game Week 23 or not, I am probably looking at Martinelli to Ødegaard. The other thing that's maybe putting me off slightly is I can still do something like Almiron to Ødegaard and just keep Martinelli, White and Ødegaard. So I don't necessarily know that I have to choose Ødegaard ahead of Martinelli. But yes, the signing of Trossard and obviously Smith Rowe being back does put me off of Martinelli slightly, and I still think that Ødegaard is an absolutely fantastic option. Rashford obviously didn't score against Crystal Palace, but he has been exceptional recently. He's a similar sort of player to Trippier and even Martinelli to some extent, and to some extent Shaw and Almiron, in that they're all so highly owned that I'm actually not getting many points, and my team has become ever so template, where every player is incredibly highly owned, and I'm relying on maybe 2 or 3 differentials in my team, such as Ederson, which isn't really a great differential to rely on to get me those points. So I'm not delighted that Rashford's so owned, but I don't think I should sell him based on the fact that he's highly owned. I think I should just look and think, I still think he's a great option, and there's still a chance that Manchester United get a double game week in Game Week 22, and even if they don't, the fixtures after Arsenal away are pretty nice. So Rashford and Martinelli for now aren't being sold. Martinelli I've got my eye on though. De Bruyne instead of Salah. Obviously I sold Salah in Game Week 20. I've got De Bruyne. The reason for that was because of the double in Game Week 20, but then he obviously missed the second fixture. I think it was an extension of the personal issue that made him miss training. I still think De Bruyne is a slightly better option than Salah, just due to the fact that he also has a double in Game Week 23. Let's hope that he actually has that double. However, like I said, Liverpool have a small chance of a double in Game Week 25, and if Liverpool do get a double at any point, I would not hesitate to do De Bruyne back to Salah. So that spot in my team, I'm happy to switch between them based on double game weeks and whoever's performing at that time. I do think that most of the time, premium switches don't make that much sense. However, the fact that I've already got Kane and Haaland, as I'll move on to in a second, I don't mind switching back and forth De Bruyne and Salah. So for now, De Bruyne is in the team. I'll almost definitely keep him until Game Week 23, but after that, I may make the switch back to Salah if Liverpool start to show signs of improvement. There's definitely justification this week to captain De Bruyne. I've seen a few people predict a Haaland rest, as we'll discuss in a second. If you think that's the case, De Bruyne was fully rested in Game Week 20, assuming that he is over that personal issue, whatever that may be. Wolves at home, we saw last season he scored 4 goals against Wolves for a 30-pointer. I don't hate that at all if you want to go for De Bruyne captaincy, but I think I'll probably lean Haaland, as we'll discuss in a second. And then Almiron is the 4th midfielder in my 11. As I said in my video earlier this week, and when I actually brought him in, I don't think Almiron's a fantastic option at the moment. I discussed it in my Game Week preview video as well. I just think that At that price, I didn't know exactly who I wanted at the time. I wanted De Bruyne and Kane to come in, and I had to bring in a player around that price point. Went for Almiron. The fixtures are still good coming up. Crystal Palace, West Ham, Bournemouth, Liverpool. Then decent fixtures coming up from an attacking perspective. And I do still think he'll get the opportunity to score goals. But when you have the likes of Matoma, March, and Ødegaard, who are all performing really well, and obviously Ødegaard has the double game week in 23 as well, I can definitely see a world where in either game week 22 or game week 23, I end up selling Almiron. And then the fifth midfielder is Andreas. Tottenham at home. If I have to rely on Andreas, I don't mind it. City have just put 5 goals past Tottenham. They still look really, really shaky at the back. So I don't mind Andreas coming on, but fingers crossed I won't have to rely on him. So that's the midfield. Let's move on to the 3 forwards and then discuss in general what my transfer plans are. So moving on to the forwards, and I do apologise if you can hear a little bit of music in the background if you've got your headphones quite high. My neighbours have decided to blare music and they won't turn it down, which is always fun. So moving on to the forwards, I'm not especially happy about it, but I'm not especially happy about any of the team. That being said, even if I were to build a wild card now, because of all the issues we've got with potential doubles, then potential blanks, and loads of players just underperforming at the moment, I'm not necessarily sure I could build a team that I was fully happy with. So I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to start taking hits and activating my wild card or anything like that. But I would say that Mitrovic, I'm not overly happy with in my team. I think Tottenham at home is a fine fixture. I think I just said that City put 5 past them. They only put 4 past them, but it is a defence that is still leaking goals, and I can still imagine Mitrovic doing quite well in this fixture. He probably isn't on penalties anymore, which is a slight issue because the 2 things that we always said was Mitrovic plays 90 minutes and Mitrovic is on penalties. He's never been very good at penalties, but you still would rather him take it than not take it and at least have the chance to score. I don't think he'll be on them anymore. Andreas, I think, has had either 1 or 2 penalties and taken them both excellently. I can't imagine that he'll keep getting to take them. Maybe he will. We'll have to see what Andre Silva says. But that is a fixture where I can see him getting something. I don't feel the need to sell him this week. But the likes of Ivan Toney could be a fantastic replacement. Even Nketiah, if I decide I don't want to go for Ødegaard, or let's say I do bring Ødegaard in for Martinelli, I could then go Nketiah in for Mitrovic, and that be the triple up. Again, we'll have to see how Trossard fits in and how that affects everyone's minutes. But Mitrovic is a player where I like his price point. I still like the 3-4-3 instead of the 3-5-2 just about, but I'm not necessarily overly keen on him. The only other reason I really like Mitrovic is they have Wolves in game week 25 for them, and in a week where the rest of my team, I might have some blankers in the likes of Almiron, Rashford, Shaw, Trippier, and potentially other players as well. Having Mitrovic and Andreas against Wolves feels quite nice, so I almost feel like you don't need to rush your Fulham players out before game week 25. That being said, that is still like 4 game weeks in the future, so if you want to take them out before then and maximise points in the meantime, I don't dislike that at all. Kane is my 3rd premium alongside De Bruyne and Haaland. I'm fine with that for now. I still think that Kane is the 2nd best premium. I'm not going to get carried away about the lack of points in game week 20. It was always a pretty tricky double. I wanted him not only for that week, but for the future as well. So I'm happy having Kane in my team. And like I said, I still think he's just about the 2nd best premium. And fingers crossed against Fulham away, despite Fulham being really good, hopefully there's some sort of response from Tottenham and Kane can get something. And then the 3rd and final striker, and the 11th player in my team, is Erling Haaland. At the moment, he's got my armband. The reason for that is his underlying data is still the best in the league. And yes, he missed quite a few chances in game week 20, but I'm not going to, again, knee-jerk too much into that. That's a massive amount of recency bias. He's still getting chances. City looks really, really good in the second half against Spurs, and I'm expecting that to trickle over against Wolves, and it is a really nice fixture, and I just don't see another standout option. In previous seasons, or even earlier in this season, you might have said Kane against Fulham looks really nice, but Fulham are arguably a better team than Spurs at the moment. Fulham are performing very, very well, and it's at Craven Cottage as well, so I don't necessarily think Kane is a great option. And then I look at everyone else. The only other person I might not mind captaining is probably De Bruyne, but again, if I'm going to captain De Bruyne, it's because I think City will score lots of goals, and usually, despite the fact that he wasn't involved in he was only involved in 1 goal in the double for 5 goals for City. I still think that usually, if you expect City to score goals, Haaland's usually involved in that. So I'm still giving him the armband, despite the disappointing game week 20. So that is the 11. At the moment, the 3 spots where I could see myself definitely changing in the future are obviously Reece James because he's injured, and there are loads of cheaper defenders that I could potentially move to. I'm just not sure exactly who I want at the moment. So Reece James is the first player that probably needs replacing. The second player that could be replaced at some point in the near future, like I said, is Mitrovic. I just think that spot, there are a few decent strikers, whether that be the likes of Callum Wilson, if he doesn't blank, Toney, again, if he doesn't blank, Nketiah could be a really nice option ahead of game week 23. So I think there are a few decent options at that price point in that Mitrovic spot. And then I've got Almiron in there as well, who could go to one of 3 players at the moment I'm eyeing up, which is Ødegaard, Matoma, and March. So if I were to take a hit this week, or if I were to replace players, it would be one of James, Mitrovic, Almiron. I'm just not entirely sure who I want. So let's jump over to Fantasy Football Hub, take a look at how my team looks for this week, for future weeks, and also look ahead to game week 25 at how I'm currently set up for the blank. So guys, as I said, I just wanted to look at Game Week 25 because this is the one we've all got in our mind. Again, if you've not watched any of my videos or any other content this week, very briefly, whoever makes the final of the EFL Cup, they will blank along with the team that they play in Game Week 25. So Newcastle play against Brighton, Manchester United play against Brentford. So if Man United and Newcastle make the final, Man United, Newcastle, Brighton, Brentford will all blank. There's a small chance that Brighton still get a single game week because they have 2 fixtures to be rearranged. So there's lots that could go on in Game Week 25. And like I said, there could be double game weeks as well for different teams. I just wanted to look at how my team currently looks so that I know sort of what I need to move towards, and I have to prioritize the players that I want to buy and want to sell as well. So let's assume, and I know it is assuming, and I know there'll be Nottingham Forest and Southampton fans out there that say we shouldn't assume, but let's assume that Newcastle Man United do make the final, which is worst case scenario for most of our teams. I currently own Almiron, Rashford, Trippier, and Luke Shaw. So my team is in a position where I have 4 players blanking. Now, I'm in a good position because apart from Reece James being injured, I built a team on my Game Week 17 unlimited transfers where all 15 of my players were playing regularly and were starters for their teams. So let's say that I replace Reece James with someone that plays in 25. And let's say over the coming weeks, I do sell Almiron for the likes of an Ødegaard, or if Brighton don't blank, the likes of a Matoma or a March. What I'll be left with is a full 11 players with Kepa, Rashford, Trippier and Shaw on the bench. So I'm going to be left in a very, very strong position. So all I need to think over the coming weeks is if I sell Reece James, ideally, I need to sell him for a player that I like, but also a player that plays in 25. Now, I've seen a few people say, and rightly so, should we be worrying about Game Week 25 to the extent where we don't buy a player that we think is great? Let's say that you think Estepinian or Botman is the best replacement for James. Do you just buy them, suck up the fact that they don't play in 25? But you could get loads of points in 21, 22, 23, and 24. So do we just forget about 25 for now? If we have to take a hit when we go in there, take a hit. And if we have to play the free hit, maybe play it. I don't hate that strategy. But if there is a player that I can think of, if we wait until 22 and we get the announcement that there are certain teams that are and aren't playing, if there is a player that I can think of that I like that also plays in 25, then I would rather wait one more week to think about that. But yes, I do agree. Maybe you just bring in a player that blanks and you just hope that your 10 players that you put out instead do absolutely fine. I don't dislike that. And then, like I said, Almiron is probably a player that I'm looking to sell anyway for the likes of Matoma or Ødegaard are probably my favourite too, but especially due to the fact that he's likely to blank in 25 as well. It was a short-term pick just until I found a player that I really wanted to bring in, and now I do think there are options that are definitely emerging ahead of Almiron. The issue with going for Almiron to Ødegaard is I do have to find the funds to do it. So what I'm currently thinking about potentially, obviously this depends if we get a Manchester United double game week in 22, although the fact it hasn't been announced yet at the time of me recording this on Thursday evening, I said there's a good chance we don't get a double game week for Manchester United now because I would have expected it to be announced provisionally by now. So let's say we don't get a double game week. In 22, I'm thinking about making probably a double change and going from Almiron to Ødegaard and then doing Reece James down to a defender of some kind. If Brighton don't blank, I like the look of Estepinian. So I may be thinking at the moment Almiron to Ødegaard, James to Estepinian. That gives me, again, if Brighton play in 25, it would give me a full 3 playing defenders and it would give me a full 11 of players as well. And it would give me Ødegaard for Everton, followed by a double game week. So that's sort of my rough plans at the moment. The team's not in a perfect position, but like I said, I don't think many people's teams are. And even if you had to hand me an extra wild card, yes, I would change the team, but I still think there would be issues with the team regardless of what I do because of all of the blanks and doubles we've got coming up and due to certain teams over and underperforming. It's quite tricky to try and get a grasp on FPL at the moment. So let me know down below what your current dilemmas are and what your current plans are and how you're approaching Game Week 21. For me, at the moment anyway, I'm currently planning on rolling the free transfer. So guys, there you have it. That is my Game Week 21 team selection with a bit of thought ahead to Game Week 25 and how I'm currently planning on dealing with that as well. If you did enjoy today's video and you got some use from it and you were entertained, please do drop a like on the video, comment down below and make sure to subscribe. We are very, very close to 60,000 subscribers and I'd absolutely love to hit it before the Game Week 21 deadline. Final note, just to make sure that you tune into the deadline stream 2 hours before the deadline on Saturday morning. So we're going live at 9 AM GMT. Tune into that deadline stream to see if I do roll the transfer and also to get some advice for your teams as well.